señalaron. Dijeron igualdad, pero esta vez me separaron. Dijeron mucho, pero no se olvidaron de callarse. Cuánto odio por mi piel sembraron. Dijeron historia y la tergiversaron. Dijeron guerra, muerte, odio y nos culparon. Siempre. Enfermedades, epidemias nos contagiaron. Exterminación de mi fauna complace a tus mercados. Dijeron riqueza y todos se lo robaron. Oro, platino, diamante, a la fuerza se lo llevaron. Y la actualidad es tan triste que todo aquello que dijeron es lo mismo que hoy se dice más. ¿Quién dice, quién explota, quién se beneficia? El asesino, el mismo que da las noticias. Hay una cuenta fácil que siempre me da las grandes riquezas, de dónde vienen y hasta dónde van.
Independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao, independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao. Nati Dre es afroresistencia, cultura ancestral, afrodescendencia, solidaridad. Esa es la esencia, la diáspora africana eleva la conciencia, conciencia negra, universal, progresista y transcultural. Negros y mestizos revolucionando, pueblos caribeños y africanos en un solo bando. No más explotación, colonialismo interno, no más confusión, supremacía blanca en el Babilón. Soy rojo, negro y verde, afroliberación. Mientras más negro, más represión. Somos creadores, recupera tu visión. Mi misión es educar con amor, contra el silencio, vivo sin temor. Independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao, independiente como los Mao Mao, concluyente como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao,
como los Mao Mao. Somos resistentes como los Mao Mao.
What's good, everybody? Who is this next to me? What's going on? What's going on? Ikemba?
Dude,
What's going on?
That's why you can never go anywhere, man. People forget you so fast, so quickly. Man, what's going on? What's going on to the people out there? Power to the people. Black power to the people, you know? What's happening, bro?
What's good, man? You know, it's crazy. You haven't been on, so like, not that I don't know how to act. It's, you know, it's just really good to be here with you, brother. I can say that right now.
Hey, it feels good to be here, you know, with a great comrade and among the rise uppers.
Uprisers.
Yeah,
we're gonna get it together.
I'm a little rusty. Forgive me. But you know, here with the uprisers, peace to everyone out there. You know, happy to be here, man. Rising up.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, you know, I'm not going to spread too much of Ikemba's business, but Ikemba has been teaching. So Ikemba has been doing very productive, very dialectical, very intellectual work, and making sure that the masses, the African masses, the young African masses of people are educated. And so, yeah, we all can't be here at the same exact time or even every single day. And I think we've emphasized that on a multitude of occasions. If you'd like to help out in that process, you know, because we all have jobs, you know, we all have other things that we're tied into, organizations and committees. But if you'd love to help Black Power Media Reloaded, you'd love to help the Rise Up Morning Show, we got a little ticker going. It's going to be going throughout the whole entire show. You know, and if you could help out, you know, if push came to shove and we got enough, you know, funding and we got enough, you know, help from the people, you know, maybe we could see Kemba, you know, every day, or see me every single day, or any of us every single day. But that's just, it's out of our grasp currently right now. And so we try and bring you the best shows when we possibly can. So shout out to, again, Kiana, Kalanji, Natasha, Rakeem, Abuna, Fernando, everybody that's a part of this this particular show. And also, please tune into other Black Power Media productions that are going on here on Black Power Media Reloaded. We are all interconnected in some way, and you will start to see that, you know, certain shows crossing over, you know, like this is your favorite Disney Channel show or whatever, you know, crossing over. No, I'm just but nonetheless, we will be, you know, doing a little bit more interactions and, you know, whatnot. But I'm happy to be here. Enough with all of that. what have you been up to, my guy? What's been going on this past weekend? One of our favorite intellectuals, birthday had came about, and
Indeed.
it was a pretty cool weekend. I can tell you that, pretty cool weekend. I was speaking to a lot of comrades about this and his words and where they fit today, how they speak more than they did then, and how this is kind of like a cycle, kind of people knowing or foretelling the future and not really being, listened to as much as they should then are now being listened to more now. And so, yeah, I'm glad that we're going to get into it. Today's show is pretty fucking dope. So
Yeah. Giant amongst giants. Talking about Comrade Kwame Ture, and formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, and his words, I think, is so relevant to what's happening today, and what we're going to be looking at is going to speak to a lot of the issues that colonized people are facing going up against empire. So I'm definitely looking forward to having that discussion, having that analysis, and a few. But yeah, man, that's what I've been doing, that though, uplifting Kwame Ture. Also, just in the streets, man, there's a lot going on, as we all know. As of lately, just a uptick in the counter revolution, counter insurgency. So, just being on P's and Q's and making sure that I'm organizing and connecting with the right folks. Just being, not necessarily just being in the streets, but out in the street, but making sure that we also are strategizing, because there's definitely a lot happening right now. Folks is who these imperialists are trying to reposition themselves in this world order, because they see they're losing the grip. They've been losing it for a while, man. And but there's no turning back. There's no turning back right now. So I think it's important that all of us make sure that we're contributing and playing our part in this revolutionary process, because it's inevitable. So making sure that we're on the right side of history is important.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but people, one thing that I've seen as of late be exhibited with Ture especially, is the misappropriation of words and he's given us, that he's left behind, his intellect, and be misappropriated to reinforce a very neoliberal narrative, being that we need to operate amongst an electoral system, or that we need to do
it's hard to do that with Kwame Ture.
It very is. It's very much hard to for individuals to try and find certain words to try and make it seem like that's what he meant. I think it's arguably one of the most disrespectful things that I've seen happen last couple of years, is these words, these particular quotes, be used to try and justify bolstering or rearranging empire to then suit the needs of petty bourgeois.
They do that with Malcolm X a lot, man.
Yes, they do. And another sector of people that use Ture's words have tried to use Ture's words to denounce our solidarity with said Palestinians, with said people from said Latin America, indigenous populations there. And so today we're going to debunk that. We're going to make it very clear that he told us to stand in solidarity because he understands he understood how colonialism worked and how it still is very much so prevalent. It's
and what it is like today, and many of us who I'm older than you, but you old school though. You're old school the way you approach the information. You read, you research. But what I have noticed over the years in in this age of YouTube, because my study, when I came into what we say, or what we call knowledge itself, which put me on that path of doing research and understanding my history, but also the history of the world, and understanding the way that the political economy, influences behavior and how it's changed over time. But anyway, we didn't have YouTube. We had to go and do that research. We had to study. Like nowadays, people they're using Instagram. They getting like these sound bites. They're watching YouTube videos and they're hearing these clips, and they think that they understand or they know a person's their whole ideology based off of what they heard in a 1 minute, 2 minute clip, or even a 30-minute video, speech. And no, you really have to, first of all, I feel like when we're dealing with individuals, we need to know their biography. We need to know their story. We need to understand context. When a person has made a statement, Kwame Ture, for example, if he's making a statement, is he making this statement? Is he known as Stokely Carmichael at this time, or is he known as Kwame Ture? Right? Is he marching with Dr. King, or is he in Ghana with Kwame Nkrumah? Those things are important in understanding, what a person stood for. And so, a lot of people, they don't do that. They hear something that a person has said, maybe in their early development, and not seeing the evolution that person has made over time, and where they stood, at least until their transition. You know what I'm saying? I say transition to the point where they pass on. But yeah, so you can't just take, but that's what happens, I think, nowadays. And so, we the type of people, we going to research, we going to read not just one speech, we're going to read several speeches, we're going to read the autobiographies, we're going to read the biographies, we're going, you know what I'm saying? We're going to dig into it. And I'd rather read lectures and speeches than listen to them, to be honest, because I feel like, for me, I can understand what's being said a lot more through reading. But everybody's different, though.
Yeah, no, that for me is the biggest irritation, is like how you said, someone that'll watch a 30-minute video and think that they know everything that they know about Ture. And even then, people will read, Ture, or read Stokely and not know that he changed his name to Kwame Ture, which is very disrespectful to call him Stokely. It's formerly known as Stokely. It's a part of I think of an anti-intellectual cycle that needs to be attacked. It needs to be agitated, because it funnels the neo-colonial agenda that is to misappropriate these individuals' legacies, which I think is a big part of why we haven't seen true liberation take fold, because we allow them, whether it's through media, whether it's through allowing a white man to then create a dissertation, the thing gets put into a pamphlet or a book, and then it gets put into a thesis, and then now Kwame Ture's words are questioned. Like that's the power of white academia, and we allow them to continue it. So it's a game that I think we fully understand, we are fully aware of, but we're not playing it at our best, and which is why we need to consistently keep pushing the narrative, as in that we are Pan-Africanists, that we believe in scientific socialism, we believe that the liberation of Africa only comes with us unshackling ourselves from the constraints of imperialism. These are not just the words of Ture, these are the words of Sekou Ture, the words of Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. There's a reason why he called himself Kwame Ture. You have to know this history in order for you to really understand what the goal is for us all. There's a beautiful video that we're going to play, coming up, where he makes it very clear. And he does it every single time. And I think that, there's always that point in time where people are going to try and misconstrue the words to fit the narrative, but it never fits. Like in this case with his words, like it's very hard, like you said, to use his words to justify empire. Like it's very hard, and I've seen people do it, and it's very I haven't seen any scholars from our diaspora call this person out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but we need to stop using Ture's words to try and justify why we need to vote under this electoral system. Because if he was alive today, right now, he would tell you guys either through a cease and desist or with his own words, being the cease and desist of saying, "Hey, stop using my words, please. Stop using them."
Man, I wish I knew we were going to be on that topic of voting. I would have sent you, a video of Kwame Ture speaking on that very topic. But
if you can, while we're recording, while this is, live, let's get it. Let's get it together. I think that we the hosts, deserve it ourselves, but most importantly, our viewers deserve it, to be able to know that his words were very distinct and they were very clear, and he meant what he said, and he said what he meant. And I think that's that. I haven't seen that, and I love that we got, we have Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, speaks, where he goes into this, a little bit on our solidarity that we should have with other individuals that are oppressed by the same empire, making very clear,
This is an exciting way to start off the show, man. Talking about Kwame Ture. This is what I'm talking about, man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. It's crazy because we just had his born day, and I was seeing I was seeing online or social media platforms people highlighting uplifting Kwame Ture, which is cool. But like I'm a strange guy. Maybe I'm not a strange guy. Maybe I'm thinking how a lot of us should be thinking, right? But this very morning, I'm walking outside and I'm seeing a bus drive by, and on the bus it has the message on the cross. It's saying "Go Phillies." And I'm like, in my mind, like when I seen it, I'm like, F the Phillies. I'm like, F the Eagles. And I know Philadelphia probably go crazy if they hear me say that. But I'm just like, yo, FDC. I'm like, going across that bus, it should be saying, at least on his born day, remember Kwame Ture. Like we don't have these sort of like messages around that's feeding our youth and even, reinforcing what we should know and who we should be uplifting around us. We have to do that ourselves, of course, in a home with our children. But wouldn't it be great to live in a society where that's reinforced? And at where I work at, when we was just an example, we were celebrating or commemorating Malcolm X and Medgar Evers at the school, and we had the daughters of Malcolm X and Medgar Evers there. And right before the program started, like days before the program, there were pictures of Medgar and Malcolm like put up all around like this hall. Down the hall, you see a bunch of pictures of Medgar Evers and Malcolm X. And I'm saying to myself, we should have been had this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it looked, I'm telling you, it looked fire. So when you come into the school, and they haven't taken it down yet. And I think they're going to keep it up there because it looks good. And so when students come in, like they're seeing these pictures of Medgar and Malcolm and at different parts of their life, with their family, out in the community, fighting for Black folks, fighting for human rights as well as civil rights. And that's powerful for the students to see when they're walking in the school. And I guess like I've digressed a bit, but the reason why this came to mind is, as we're talking about Kwame Ture, I'm just saying that I didn't see enough commemorating or remembering of Kwame Ture on the 29th. And so that day came and went. Tupac gets more, on his birthday, he gets more love and he gets more attention than Kwame Ture. And I'm a Tupac head, so I ain't mad at people. But Kwame Ture needs to get the same, if not more, attention than a Tupac Shakur. So yeah, man.
Yeah, we're not done with Ture by any stretch. We're gonna be getting into, as soon as we're done with this little break of ours, we'll be getting right back into Ture and going over, how we should be standing in solidarity with our undocumented comrades that are only migrating to the occupation because the occupation is inflicting imperialist motives and agendas onto their countries, which is making it harder for them to live where they're naturally from. But even then, so we are a network that doesn't believe in borders. I don't believe in borders. I believe that,
I don't believe in borders.
This is indigenous lands that has been stolen. And we are seeing neocolonialism wrapped with neoliberalism to try and save imperialism. These things are always intended to do so. They're intended to uphold each other. They were born out of each other. So their sole intention is to make sure that they stay alive. And, a big part of us understanding this is going to come through the text of understanding our solidarity, but also most importantly, understanding what the true goal is. And Ture knew that, individuals who really follow him have understood that and continue to follow in that same role. And it's not the Kwame Ture role. It is the role of the Black radical tradition, is that we keep ourselves in a position of resistance until there is no need for us to resist, because we've toppled it all, because we've liberated ourselves from it all. And I think Ture knew that, understood that, and is allowing us to continue to live, to continue to learn that, not live that, to learn that. So yeah, we'll be back, you guys. This is a Black Power Up. We'll be back as soon as this is over. So I'm Isaac Jasper. This is Ikemba, Rise Up Morning Show. Hope you guys are enjoying this. We will be back.
Socialism. So I adhere also to socialism. I know the socialist economic system is the only system that will solve the unjustness that's to be found in a capitalist system.
Do you think that Black Americans can continue? Do you believe that Black Americans can continue under the current governmental system that we have here in the United States today? Or do you think that some sort of upheaval will have to take place and changes be made?
Well, outside of the government structure, systematically speaking, there must be an upheaval. The capitalist system is in grave crisis. And every time the capitalist system finds itself in crisis, its solution is war. It comes out of it by war. Today, that's going to be a little bit difficult. The peoples around the world, their consciousness has risen, therefore they are fighting back. And in America, those who will be called to go and fight, their consciousness has also risen, because of Vietnam notwithstanding, so that it will become a little bit more difficult, and the problems are going to rise. And the only way to solve the problems is by taking away from the rich that which they have no right to have, and equally distributing it among all the people in the society.
Martin Luther King was disturbed somewhat by your movement, and he felt that possibly he was afraid that it would cause what was referred to back then as a white backlash. In view of and now we never really did see a white backlash, I don't think, in my own opinion, during the 60s and 70s. But now, suddenly in this country, we do have a conservative movement, and people, Democrats are changing to Republicans and this sort of thing. Do you think that there's a possibility that there might be a delayed reaction to some of the things that blacks did during the 60s?
I think that there was quite a reaction. It continues, of course. My disagreement with Dr. King on this point, though minute, was that there's no such thing as a backlash. What there is that we're under racism, and we come to struggle against it. Certainly, as you struggle against any opponent, the opponent stiffens his resistance. And if the opponent happens to be someone oppressing you, they stiffen their oppression. If we have a plantation and there are slaves and the slaves never try a slave revolt, there's no need to tighten up security. But if the slaves try a slave revolt, you can be sure that security is going to be tightened. So consequently, when you struggle against oppression, it is to be expected that those who are oppressing you are going to tighten up the screws of oppression. Dr. King's, his real point was that what was happening was that with the Black Power slogan, it seemed to have isolated whites, and he felt that this isolation of whites, which could be a buffer zone, would just leave us out there isolated by ourselves.
You spoke to black students about the history of blacks in, the future of blacks in America. What kinds of things did you say to them? What kind of advice did you give them?
Well, the first is that we need to be more conscious of our responsibility as human beings and certainly as Africans. And in order to do this, it calls for us properly understanding our history. Our history in this country, our history in the world has not been written by us in the first instance. Even the best meaning, those outside of our race cannot properly comprehend the historical forces which we're up against. Therefore, one is for us to properly understand our history. Once we understand our history, it will give us a guide and map out the path that we must take. Certainly, we have to be organized. We are an unorganized people everywhere across the country, totally disorganized. Consequently, we must become organized, and we must have an organization which we run, which we direct, which we control, which we finance, and to which we give ideological direction, which is crucial. For us, of course, as Pan-Africanists, no African anywhere in the world will ever be free until all of Africa is free. Therefore, our primary occupation is the liberation of Africa and its unification under socialism. This, therefore, is the future direction of the struggle.
Ooh, thank you. Very clear. Very, very clear.
He was sounding like you, or was you sounding like him?
No. Let's not get that reversed. He was sounding like himself, and all I do is talk. And
you the student. You just carrying on the message for sure.
You wanted to go over, and I was kind of very happy that you had asked if we could. We being that this is Ture, or we are remembering Ture, that being that we couldn't remember him on Sunday, particularly chapter 8 of Stokely Speaks, where it's titled "Solidarity with Latin America." And so, me and you both, and you bring it up, that we need this article, this portion of this, book needs to be read to our viewers in order to understand that if you are a fan of Ture, if you are talking about Pan-Africanism, if you are talking about socialism, if you are talking about liberation, if you are talking about revolution, that means standing in solidarity with those who you might, through a very patriarchal and a very manipulated way, have been told is your enemy. You are now invoking what would be classified as prejudiced behavior towards another oppressed class of people, that whose oppressor is yours as well. So give me 1 second. I got my door. Give me 1 second.
Handle your business, comrade. But yeah, while he's doing that, I can actually go into the chapter that we wanted to just look at, from Kwame Ture Speaks. And when he comes back, he can jump into it. But I just wanted to go over chapter 8. Let's start off with chapter 8, Solidarity with Latin America. And should I pull this on the screen? Oh, you back. That was fast. I can't hear you, comrade. Or you still on?
Yeah, can you pop that up on the screen? Because if I do it, my computer will.
Okay. I didn't even know you was back.
Yeah, it was real quick. Sorry about that. Let's add this to the stage. All right.
Yeah. And actually, we're just going to pull some paragraphs from this.
Yeah, we're not going to read it through and through. I think we discussed that.
Yeah. But maybe we can at least start off with the, with the first couple paragraphs as the introduction to what he's going to be discussing.
Exactly. Yeah. So he starts off by stating that, we share with you a common struggle. It becomes increasingly clear we have a common enemy. Our enemy is white, Western, imperialist society. Our struggle is to overthrow this system that feeds itself and expands itself through the economic and cultural exploitation of non-white, non-Western peoples of the third world. We share with you also a common vision of establishment of humanistic societies in the place of those now existing. We seek with you to change the power bases of the world. Mankind will share the resources of their nations instead of having to give them up to foreign plunderers. Civilizations will be able to retain their cultural sovereignty instead of being forced to submit to foreign rulers who impose their own corrupt cultures on those civilizations they would dominate. This was given at the first conference of Organization of Latin America Solidarity, Cuba, July 1967, after London. Copyright 1967 by Student Voice, SNCC, subsidiary. He goes on, and I just want to talk about that because I think that, being that it's the first paragraph, or the first couple paragraphs, it really sets the record straight. We are not, and we should not be aligning ourselves with calling ourselves an enemy to those who are oppressed by the same enemy. How, again, it goes back to another thing that Ture said. The people think they're thinking, but they're not really thinking. The system is so ass backwards because people really believing that us reinforcing neo-colonial narratives by not showing solidarity with those undocumented comrades, whether it's in LA, whether it's here in Vegas, whether it's in Philly, whether it's in New York, all over the fucking occupation, we stand in solidarity with them, because guess what? When there is no more said illegals, as I said a couple weeks ago in a short clip, they will be coming for us. Guaranteed. That is not an assumption. That is a fact. That is how accelerated fascism works. That's what we're living under. Fascism that is giving every bit of tools and resources that is needed to keep it afloat. Now, how do we combat that? Well, we combat that with scientific socialism, with resistance, with aligning ourselves with those that are also oppressed by that same system. It's not hard. Really not hard to understand. We just have a intellectual behavior that makes it very unimaginable sometimes for us to reach our liberation, and that's where we got to stop that. We got to stop that, because we're at a stage now where either you're gonna pretend like 4 years or 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we could vote ourselves out of this shit when we just went through people telling us that we could vote ourselves out of this shit. I think, throw the damn rule book out the fucking window at this point. We need re-strategize.
Talk about it.
So
talk about it, comrade. No, I'm with you 100%, man. He's speaking to part of the problem is how we're defining our struggle. This struggle against empire. And so is it a struggle to become citizens of the empire, to be a part of this system? And which is part of the reason why I think it's hard to even build this solidarity, because you have people who are seeing themselves as different groups who are competing against each other for resources under the system of colonialism. And so once we begin to redefine our struggle as one for liberation, this is why political education is so important, because those people who are out there who are and not just the people who are from the Latin American community. I don't even know if I want to use that term, but the colonized, indigenous and African folks who are struggling on their land to be citizens of the colony. They have to understand like this land. Oh, let me make sure my battery don't die. But they have to understand like the fight is for land, free the land. That's the conversation we have to. So we have to redefine the struggle as one liberation of freeing the land, freeing the labor from the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. Freeing the state. Like this is the conversations we have to have when we're on the ground with those folks, because I'm not sure if they're even clear on what the end game is. Is it like what is the struggle? What are they talking about? What do they want to achieve? Because from what I'm getting is they want to change this policy. They're fighting against ICE. They're fighting against ICE. But what policy change are you're looking for? Are you looking for those who are here that are undocumented, a smooth transition for them to become, legal residents of the United States, to be citizens? If that's the end game, then it's going to be difficult, because that becomes a struggle. That becomes a interest, sort of an interest for that group, of people. What is it? What's in it for those people who are born citizens here? What is it? What's in it for the African community that's here and look at themselves as descendants of slaves, when you're defining your struggle as one to become legal citizens? Because now is they're looking at it as a competition thing, taking jobs, the resources that could be used for the African community. You get what I'm saying though? Like that's
I love that you bring up the jobs, reasoning behind, some of our, unfortunate brothers and sisters, from the diaspora that believe that this fight is not our fight. We need to stay home type of mentality. These jobs are being outsourced. They just created, or if I'm not mistaken, they just approved, which is I think called the Genesis Project or something like that, which is a project or a plan that is for all of these private institutions like Palantir and Apple and all of these tech industries to come in and to create AI, which we all know is detrimental to our brothers and sisters in the Congo, because you need resources to be plundered in order for you to be able to sustain that. On top of all of that, the amount of resources, solar power, whatever power you're trying to use, nuclear reactors, whatever it is, that is very dangerous and is very it creates tricky situations for the people, and the people are not looked at. But most importantly, the jobs. They're wanting to. You think a $1 billion company is going to want to give $5 billion to create AI and to create all of these robots and robotics jobs, or robotics, individuals that take jobs from other people? Do you think they're going to then want to hire individuals? No, they're not. So like you alluded to earlier, this is the consolidation of empire. And what we're seeing is they're saying, hey, some of these individuals are not needed anymore. So we're getting rid of them. And we're getting rid of even acknowledging that they existed. Like that's where we're at now, where they don't even want to acknowledge that they existed, or that they created these institutions themselves. And at the same time, invoking neo-colonial agendas and ideology to try and justify all of this mass exodus, It's not an exodus. This is an expulsion. This is kidnapping of individuals, some of which have birthright citizenship here are being taken away and are being kidnapped and are being taken to alligator Alcatraz. Like the fact that we're even allowing them to be creative with what they're about to name the next concentration camp, I think is a telling sign to where we're at right now. Is that you're allowing them to create these bullshit ass names, you know, and name them. Like they actually have gotten the power to name these facilities now.
But I think it's all the distraction at the end of the day. I think it's a ploy to divide the working class. I don't believe that they're like deporting undocumented undocumented people in this country because for whatever reason, whether it's crime because of the money, like money that's being spent, resources that's being utilized to address issues, education, health issues of undocumented people, that money could be used because they come up with all types of reasons, right? Jobs and so forth. I don't believe none of that right there. For one, when you look at the amount of undocumented, they say there's somewhere between 11 and 12 million and 20 million undocumented people in this country. So for like the last decade or so, every year they've been, which shows that this isn't nothing new either. So they've been deporting somewhere between 300, 500,000, let's say like in around that range a year. That's how many people have been has been deported. But they say the numbers as far as those people who are coming back into the country, which is probably some of those people who are being deported or maybe new folks, is around the same amount of people that they're deporting, which is sort of like it's negating whatever it is that they're doing. So they're spending all of this money and it's not even putting a dent into the amount of undocumented people that are here. So, but you get what I'm saying? Like, what is it really? What is it really for? And it's a distraction. It's a divide. It's to have a group of people think that these people who are undocumented is the problem. We need to focus our attention, our resources and attention on these people because we handle this. This is going to help solve whatever problem, and it doesn't solve the problem. The colonial problem. It doesn't solve the problem of the power dynamic of those who possess, the means, the power over the means of production and distribution, and those who are slaves to those who control the means to those things. So that's the fundamental contradiction. And so we never get to that conversation. And that goes back to my point of those people who are fighting against ICE and fighting for the undocumented. Like, you got to understand what the ultimate goal should be. You have to define that struggle as one of freeing the land, not necessarily like to become citizens of America. We have to begin to look at America as the enemy of not just to us, but they're enemy to the world. They're enemies to the Congolese, enemies to the Palestinians, they're enemies to all the colonized people of the world. So we don't align ourselves with America and fight to integrate. So I don't want to keep going. I know you wanted to.
No. You're good. You're good, man. I was just about to say that I'm having okay, now I'm not. That's good. I cleared out some stuff. I was getting that that video together. The video that you sent me of Ture, was it like less than like 2 minutes long that you sent me?
Oh, it's probably like a minute long.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure because sometimes the compressor that I use, it'll like it'll
cut it down.
Take an 11-minute video and make it 3, and I'm like, what am I watching right now? So no, I have that queued up for us to play a little bit later on. But I'm liking this conversation, and if we could move to a little bit into the book,
go ahead.
in the same chapter, because I think it.
You want me to pull it back up?
Yeah, if you can, if you could go to where he says, "We are moving to control our African American communities." I think that's a good place for us to start.
That's how the paragraph starts.
That's how that particular one starts. Yeah. Okay, let me put this on screen. So he starts off by stating that we are moving to control our African American communities as you are moving to wrest control of your countries and the entire Latin continent from the hands of foreign imperialist powers. There is only one course open to us. We must change North America so that the economy and politics of the country will be in the hands of the people. And our particular concern is our people, African Americans. But it is clear that a community based on the community ownership of all resources could not exist within the present capitalist framework. For the transformation to take place, whites must see the struggle that we engaged in as being their own struggle. Says right here, at the present time, they do not, even though the white worker is exploited, he sees his own best interest in lying with the power structure because of the racist nature of this country. We cannot work in white communities, but we have to ask those whites who work with us to go into their own communities to being being propagandized and organizing, to being propagandizing and organizing. There we go. When the white workers realizes their true conditions, their alliances will be possible between ourselves and them. I say that this is important because there's a lot of people that will play in your face. There's a lot of people that will play in your face. They
talk about it, man.
Yeah, I think we need to, because as much as we need to stand in solidarity with individuals that are from Latin America or just indigenous populations from occupied territories down there. We also have to start calling out white individuals who say that they know and that they exhibit solidarity, and then when they get a little stressed out and a little worked up or whatever, they want to reinforce that narrative onto you, like you need to change or you need to start invalidating your life as a whole, what you live under capitalism. Watch out for these people, because again, they might say that they stand in solidarity with you, but they don't. They don't, because when the working conditions change for them and get a little bit fucking better, they're nowhere to be seen when it comes to your working conditions, when it comes to your energy levels. They're no longer there. They're no longer interested. They're no longer wanting to invest anymore. So you're left with what? You're left with someone who ain't a fucking ally, okay?
Right.
Very clear.
Let me be quiet.
Very, very, very clear. Don't let these white folks pick and choose the battles that they know they need to fucking fight. Don't let them do that. I can say I've been a victim to that. Okay. Yeah. Don't do that. They are fully accountable and need to be held accountable for every fucking action that has happened in fucking history. They need to also stand out against what's going on. And any individual that you are friends with that is from the mountains of Caucasus, you need to put them in a firm position to let them understand that you don't get to cower away. You don't get to pick and choose what you want to stand in solidarity with when all of this shit is oppressed. All of this shit is occupation. You don't get to choose. You don't get to choose. You don't get to put a fucking gauge on what you're willing to be a part. No, you don't get to use Black radical tradition to understand how your fucking ancestors have oppressed us and then not stand in solidarity and not stand 10 toes down on making sure that you stand in solidarity. That's not me, man. That's not me.
But that's important to say, because there may be people, folks who tap into this, who organize in circles where they are working with people who consider themselves allies and so forth. So You know, that's important. I'm not in those circles, so
he's like, so I could agree, but only to a certain extent. I can agree, but only to a certain extent. I have to make it very clear because we get so many people that love to learn about our history and then will throw in your face some shit after reading your history. Give me like it's ass backwardsness, and it also applies to the narrative that we don't need to that we could pick and choose our battles. That white shit, we could pick and choose we have to stand in solidarity with these people. That's just, it's firm. It's very firm. They're oppressed by the same system that we live under, that our ancestors were oppressed by, that we continue to be oppressed by. So what makes it, like, I'm sorry, this ain't Squid Games. And
white folks gotta be, to be honest, like they have to be like John Brown. I know John Brown might seem like extreme to a lot of them, but yeah, you have to really be that way. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be real. Like John Brown was out there, he was killing his own. I remember I was doing research on the biggest massacres in the United States. I don't mean to laugh. The reason I'm laughing is because I was looking for, of course, like massacres against Black Africans in this country. And I came across like two that John Brown committed. I was like, what the hell? Like,
well, it's because they painted.
I ain't talking about Harper's Ferry. This is before Harper's Ferry. Like
they painted this picture of white radicals look like Bernie Sanders. It's like no, like
John Brown is the example, man.
Shit.
He was doing what the Haitians was talking about, man. Like he was chopping heads and burning houses. Like that's what John Brown was doing. And so I'm looking for that type of ally, that type of solidarity, man. I need that for real. Like because it's a lot. It's things that I be thinking about doing, and it would be good to have an ally to do it for me.
If I could just only have a white sponsor, if I could just only.
I don't need no reparations. What I need you to do,
I need you to be a ghost there. I need you to.
Here's a list of some. Let me be quiet because we there's some stuff that's been going on lately. So Minnesota. I don't know if y'all was talking about Minnesota. Because I've been going a while, but yeah, it's some. I'm pretty sure it's like heightened alert around America right now. For sure. Hey, if I could,
go ahead.
So going back to Stokely, we going in on Stokely. I hope y'all loving this, man, because we don't do this enough. But this paragraph right here, I wanted to read this. Our people are a colony within the United States, and you are colonies outside the United States. It is more than a figure of speech to say that the Black communities in America are the victims of white imperialism and colonial exploitation. In practical economic and political terms, it is true. There are over 30 million of us in the United States. For the most part, we live in sharply defined sections of the rural Black Belt areas and the shanty towns of the South, and more in the slums of the northern and western industrial cities. With us, there are hundreds and thousands of Puerto Ricans, Mexican Americans, and American Indians. American cities are in essence populated by the people of the third world, while the white middle class flees. The heart of commercial trade is in these cities, but though we live there, we do not control our resources. We do not control the land, the houses, or the stores. They are owned by whites who live outside the community. Since 1966, the cry of the rebellions have been Black power. This cry implies an ideology that the masses understand instinctively. It is because we are powerless that we are oppressed. And it is only with power that we can make the decisions governing our lives and our communities. Those who have power have everything. Those who are without power have nothing. Without power, we have to beg for what is rightfully ours. With power, we will take our birthright because it was with power that our birthright was taken from us. Uh, so yeah, I wanted to read that. We was talking about that a bit too earlier. Uh, how like the power dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it appears to be different because of who is in proximity to us that is doing the oppressing and the exploiting.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, as you can see in this paragraph, Kwame Ture is talking about white people controlling, like in our communities, in our face, controlling the stores, and us having to go to them, which really hasn't changed uh, so much because we still go downtown, we still go to people who are not from the community that's in our community exploiting us. As far as like the black face, we see black people who are in quote unquote positions of power, whether it's in politics,
Mm-hmm.
right, in police uniform and so forth. Uh, but they're still carrying out the bidding of the power structure at the end of the day. So though it may look different than what Kwame Ture is talking about, it really isn't different. And I think another thing, because we have to understand how things have changed over time, as we see. Also, he's talking about white people fleeing the urban cities, right? And what we have now is gentrification. Like Kwame Ture isn't going to talk about ethnic cleansing and gentrification when you're reading his lecture or listening to him speak. But today, that's the conversation that we're having, because those who are fleeing, they're either coming back or their children are coming into these urban cities, right, and gentrifying. So uh, uh, we have to update the analysis, but it's still colonialism at the end of the day. It's neo-colonialism, colonialism at the end of the day. And so it's black people who are still powerless in these communities.
Mm-hmm.
That fundamentally hasn't changed from that time to now. And so, understanding that we are a colonized people, again, going back to defining what is the struggle, what is our struggle, whether you are Native American, you consider yourself Mexican, Afro-American, African-American, those who are of the underdeveloped world, the colonized world, understanding we are struggling against imperialism. We're struggling against the system. The
Yeah.
system has to be dismantled and destroyed, and a new system has to be uh, ushered in.
Yeah. You again, the this is not a new, like, if you're hearing people now talk about revolution and talking about we need change, this has been talked about. This has
Mhm.
been a reinforced narrative through the Black radical tradition for us to continuously keep letting our people know that there is a better way of life. We just have to work amongst the
We
other
gotta
people
be able to imagine it.
and imagine what life could be like, if we all work together to agitate the system just enough to overthrow it. You know?
Could there was another point I wanted to make too, that came back to me. You know what these what these sellouts are doing, these neo-colonialists are doing in the African community. It's the same thing what the sellout Palestinians was doing when they were selling land to these Zionists. Now, I don't think that, maybe they did, maybe they don't. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think they foresaw, a state of Israel being
Mm-hmm.
created when they were selling their land. But at the same time, you had individuals who are selling off Palestinian land. Same thing with like with sellout indigenous people who, these colonizers get in their ears and have them thinking as individuals rather than the traditional thinking of being a part of a community. You know what I'm saying? And collectively coming to these decisions. And so when we get away from that, and that's what happens in the Black community, is that you have these sellouts, because the reason they're being gentrified is because we got Black people who are in positions of power, who is allowing people who are not from the community to come into these communities and take them over, right? So they're aligning themselves with the opposition. And so that's something that needs to be called out, and that needs to be understood too, by the masses, man.
Yeah.
Many of our people are striving to bourgeois aspirations, man. That's the.
I seen, this is literally an hour before we started this live. I seen a video of, and mind you, if he comes down my timeline, it's either someone commenting on it or it fell through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Charleston White talking about that if we guess exactly, you just had to take a minute, for just a quick minute for everybody.
Lord.
Charleston White saying that, if we got insurance policies for accidental deaths for our children in the diaspora, that we would have reparations in less than 3 years. This notion that reparations comes through a capitalist lens is fucking idiotic. It's idiotic to the core. We literally just had a conversation with Ajamu Baraka about this last week, where he said something that I have been talking about myself for a couple years now, with other comrades have, put it on wax, made it very clear that is nothing more than a stimulus check. If you need a more simpler example, that is you getting $30,000 for getting 30,000 lashings, and then you going and giving that money back to the same person that lashed you, because you haven't properly fucking contradicted the fact that you are being lashed. All you cared about was how much money you're going to get after receiving said lashes. That is idiotic. That is idiotic. And we have so many people out here that'll take Charleston White's words to be fucking valid, to have some merit. And it's ridiculous, because it goes back to what you also alluded to, is that in order for us to change what we live under, we have to contradict everything. We can't just say we want the ICE raids to stop. Well, what are some procedures and what are some things that we could implement or that we could do to make sure that this stuff stops? Whether it's uber radical, whatever you want to call it, whether it's rooted in procedures, as you were talking about, policies, what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm. We need some radical, put forth some radical policies, man. I'm loving what I'm seeing in New York
with Zoran Mabdani. I'm glad that you want to talk, because
I love what I see, and
all I'm going to say is that this is not the first time that this has happened, that we have propped up a Democrat as radicals. Okay.
No, don't get me wrong.
I'm just saying, people hold him accountable. He said free child care from 3 to K. Okay, free child care. He said free bus fare. Hold this man accountable.
Yeah, but this is the thing. And this is the reason why I like what I see in regards to him winning that primary and hopefully becoming mayor, because there is a movement, like these ideas that he's coming up with. He's getting that from because I'm in New York, and so we was already having those conversations. We were already in the streets talking about abolishing the fare, making the fare fair. Like, there's different conversations being had. We've had D12 on here who was talking about these things, right? There's a struggle that organizations, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, and others who are on the ground who are struggling around housing, holding politicians accountable, right? And so we're having these conversations, and so here he comes and he's talking about these things that the streets are already talking about. So what I like is that people are putting him, he's going to get into that office because the masses who are behind these policies are going to put him there. The people are going to hold him accountable when he's in there. Trust me, like, because there's already a movement around these things, and especially with everything going on, right? And it also shows, it's, to me, it's a reflection of what the people, the consciousness of the people. When you have somebody who can come at these Zionists, right, and still be elected in a city that has probably more Zionists and people from the Jewish community than even Israel, right? If not the largest, probably one of the largest cities, right, outside of Israel. Say that again.
No, I'm gonna let you finish because I feel like I've been interrupting you like 3 times already now.
Oh no, you good. Nah, we having a conversation. Go ahead, man.
No, I really hope that, again, people hold him accountable. And hold him accountable in the way that which we hold people who are placed in power as a leader, in order to, because really what I want to see, if you guys really want to know, I want him to completely abolish education in the city of New York, meaning that abolish it, meaning paid, that you got to pay to go to college, you got to pay to go, student debt, making sure that no private institutions come in and get to slap on said amount of money for, this loan or this loan or this loan, free child care, universal health care for people in New York, as it's a mecca for people who need and are sick and need help. Returning land, being that we have so many, skyscrapers, we have so many of these buildings in this concrete jungle that was created that are empty. I mean, levels upon levels upon levels are empty, and people need housing. So guess what? Also returning land rights back to the Lenape people. So making sure that the Lenape, the indigenous populations of that land, get a say-so on what gets built and what was already built on their lands. This is what we need. It's not more. It's not just a vote him in. He said some nice shit. He goes to a pride fucking fair or a pride parade. He stands in solidarity. He's Muslim, all of these things. I'm tired of checking fucking boxes. And then when we get the right person in power, they do fucking nothing. And they become a part of the squad. It's just an ushering to the squad. That's what I'm
saying. So like with him, what we have to understand, because it goes back to our politics and understanding when it comes to the electoral process. Like, we're not going to free ourselves through voting. We know that. And so, again, like, taking advantage of the opportunity to organize our folks around these issues, push them to stand on business. And if not, that exposes it deepens, I think, like the contradiction, right, of the system, exposes the electoral process, right, as being the sham. But at the same time, like, let's see what happens if he's really about that business. Let's see if he's gonna do like how Trump, he doing whatever he wants. Is he gonna come in and do that? Because that's my thing. Like, Trump is showing.
Yeah, and we can only hope, that he comes in with that same, I don't give a shit mentality. I'm gonna say
probably not though, right?
I'm gonna say F it to to policy and all of these things. He probably won't do that. But it's up to the people to now, if this individual, being that he is the Democratic primary candidate, that we just propped up as radicals, if he does not be held accountable to the same standards that we hold individuals like that to, I think y'all need to give up and start turning in all of the books that you said you read, or reread them.
Hold on, but he's not a revolutionary though.
No, he's not. But people are classifying him as a revolutionary because he said some stuff that has gotten hundreds of thousands of people's, up in arms.
Nobody's classifying him as a revolutionary.
I've seen all over Instagram.
Yeah.
Say that this is a historic win. This is the first time that a socialist, has won the primary and all of this. And I just hope that.
But it does show a shift, though, right?
We don't allow him to just use our clout to then get him empowered to then the same shit happens. The
Obama syndrome.
Exactly.
Nah, I definitely hope that doesn't happen. Which are probably at the end of the day, I think that there's folks that understand like what revolution takes, what needs to be done if we really are trying to liberate ourselves, and it's not voting, right? There's people who understand that. But what we have to do is get those people who are supporting, who are, which I do myself. I want him to win. I do not want Eric Adams to win. So I definitely want to see this guy win. But what we have to do is organize the people. This has to be an opportunity. As a matter of fact, Kwame Ture speaks to this in the clip we're going to show.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you wanted to play that clip real quick.
Yeah, let's go to it, man. Since we having a conversation about voting.
Yeah, I was gonna say also too. We're running out of time to talk about Kenya and Gaza. So if we stay too much longer on Ture and on this topic, we might not get to the rest of them. But let's
come back. We're gonna get into
Kenya. Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed. We didn't. I wouldn't say we did our best. God damn it! No, we did our best with through that chapter. And we're hoping that you guys can go and read that through, and that those were important parts to us that we thought we could make conversation off of, that gets you to understand that we need to stand in solidarity with every oppressed group of people that currently right now is facing the negative, and because there is no positive implications of imperialism. So we'll be back, you guys. And until then, enjoy some words from Kwame Ture. And to those that use Ture's words, check yourself, please.
Democratic Party. Now, I'm not a Democrat. I've never voted in my life in the Democratic Party, and I never vote in the Democratic Party. It's racist and it's capitalist to the core. This is understood. And I shed my blood. I shed my blood for the vote now. I want to make that clear. Some people get confused. The vote for me has never been the road to liberation. It's only the means of organizing my people. I know that. I was a young man in Harlem when they disbarred Adam Clayton Powell. Harlem had no representation. We continued to eat and sleep and take drugs and continue life just like always when Julian Bond was elected, when we were young in SNCC in Atlanta, Georgia, and they refused to see them because of his position against the war in Vietnam. The Africans in that area, his congressional district, continued life just as we've not been having any mayors, and we've been having life, and even with the mayors now, the quality of life has not improved at all. So I've known the vote is never what? You vote for once in 4 years, and that's your political responsibility? That's the height of bourgeois propaganda, making the people politically irresponsible.
So that was Kwame Ture, basically telling people that, we need to think consciously about what is true liberation and what isn't true liberation, and what are just aesthetics that help us propel organization, not even revolution, in regards to electoral politics. And so yeah, let's get into Kenya.
Real quick, July 1st, is something going on? Is people supposed to stay home tomorrow or today?
Yep. People, I hope you're staying home. I'm home. I'm home right now. I know you're home.
Yeah, so this is for what reason? This is like why people.
I seen a flyer that was sent to me, and I think it's to boycott Empire. It's to, no buying, no selling, no
Like
working,
so
no.
blackout. It's supposed to be a blackout.
It's supposed to be a major blackout. We've had these, and they've gone relatively successful to a degree. So yeah, I highly advise individuals, if you are planning on going out, please stay home. Do your best to stay home. Invoke yourself into this boycott the best that you possibly can. Being that we are individuals that are sick and tired, and we're coming up with more ways to show that we're sick and tired. And if that means not spending, if that means not interacting with your favorite show as well, then please do so, because it is beneficial and it is a form of resistance to this occupation. But yeah, you got some news coming from Kenya regarding.
Me or you?
Yeah, we both. We'll just say we both do. We both do. I don't have the article pulled up.
I got something from Congo that I'm going to be speaking on. You want me to do
on the Congo you're speaking on? Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's what you want me to go into that right now?
Yeah.
All right. So, you folks, if you've been tapped in, y'all might have noticed that Trump and Rubio is getting all of this credit for brokering a peace deal between Rwanda and Congo. So I'm gonna go into this article a bit. Rwanda-Congo signs peace deal in U.S. to end fighting and attract investment. Probably not gonna read all of this, but just so we can get an idea of what's happening. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo signed a U.S. broker peace agreement on Friday, raising hopes for an end to fighting that has killed thousands and displaced hundreds of thousands more this year. The agreement marked a breakthrough in talks held by U.S. President Donald Trump's administration and aims to attract billions of dollars of Western investment to a region rich in tantalum, gold, cobalt, copper, lithium, and other minerals. At a ceremony with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, the two African countries' foreign ministers signed the agreement, pledging to implement a 2024 deal that would see Rwanda troops withdraw from eastern Congo within 90 days, according to a copy seen by Reuters. Kinshasa and Kigali will also launch a regional economic integration framework within 90 days, the agreement said. They were going at it for many years, and with machetes. It was this, quoting Donald Trump right now, it is one of the worst wars that anyone has ever seen. And I just happened to have somebody that was able to get it settled, Trump said on Friday ahead of the signing of the deal in Washington. Trump said, we're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming. Rwanda Foreign Minister Oliver Nduhungirehe called the agreement a turning point. Congo Foreign Minister Kayikwamba Wagner said it must be followed by disengagement. Trump later met with both officials in the Oval Office, where he presented them with letters inviting Congolese President Tshisekedi and his Rwanda counterpart Paul Kagame to Washington to sign a package of agreements that Massa Bolas, Trump's senior advisor for Africa, dubbed the Washington Accord. Trump was told that the past deals had not been implemented and urged Trump to stay engaged. Trump also warned of very severe penalties, financial and otherwise, if the agreement is violated. Rwanda has sent at least 7,000 soldiers over the border, according to analysts and diplomats, in support of M23 rebels who seized eastern Congo's two largest cities and lucrative mining areas in a lightning advance earlier this year. The gains by M23, the latest cycle in a decade-old conflict with roots in the 1994 Rwanda genocide, sparked fears that a wider war could draw in Congo's neighbors. So I'm gonna let's stop there. They go a bit more into the story about this peace treaty or peace deal, I should say. But there's a few things that really stand out for me in this story, man. First of all, just the powerlessness it shows of African leaders, particularly these African leaders, that they need to go to the white man to broker a peace deal. They need to go to the United States and ask Trump to get in between this conflict, right? So it shows this power dynamic, man. It shows the powerlessness of these African leaders and the continuing power of the West, right? To be able to dictate what is going on in that region. And they're able to dictate what's going on in that region because of the resources that they have, right? Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. They're talking about these mineral rights. Who's going to benefit from these mineral rights? Yes, the West is going to benefit, but there's going to be some specific people within Congo, right? Or African, there's going to be people who are part of that African bourgeoisie who are also going to benefit from these deals as well. And so the selling out of the working class, because you're going to notice, like in this deal, and I don't know what all of the particulars are of this deal, but I can guarantee there's no worker rights that's going to be in that deal. There's not going to be talks about the inhumane treatment of minors that's happening, and that's happening right now. That's going to be addressed in this deal. I can guarantee these things, and this is what happens, man. That's why, at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking at this. There's already talks about Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize, for doing something that no one else has been able to do. But the contradiction still remains at the end of the day. And so those workers are going to still be exploited. The other thing is Rwanda. Why is there a peace deal? I know why there's a peace deal, right? And we understand because Rwanda has always been a part of this conflict. Though they have always denied, they continue to deny, right, that they are the ones who are supporting M23. But if that's the case, then why is there not a peace deal being brokered between M23 and Congo? Like, what if Rwanda has nothing to do with this, then why is this peace deal being brokered between those two countries? Because Rwanda has always supported M23. They have always backed it. Everybody knows it, right? They're trying to confuse the public. They're lying to the public to keep us in the dark about what's really going on. But that's the other issue I have with this, because is M23 now going to back off now that Rwanda and Congo has this peace deal? Because if they're not backing M23, then M23 is still going to continue to do what they're doing. Or is this a green light for Congo to bring down hellfire on M23? And whatever happens to M23, it happens because they are in the way of what Rwanda and Congo is trying to do. So now it opens the door for them to be wiped out. So I don't know. It's too early to really tell what's going to happen. But I feel like there's still a lot that's not being said about this particular deal. And then, for last thing, for Trump to talk about if there's any violations of this deal, then there's going to be consequences. Again, man, I think it just shows how weak these African leaders are, man, in these countries. You have all these resources. The ball is in your court. If anything, Rwanda and Congo, they should have been conspiring on how they are going to take advantage of the United States. They should be coming together like, hey, we need to stop fighting each other. The West, us being divided, is going to open the door for the West to be able to come in here and just exploit us.
Yeah.
So we're stronger if we have a united front. Why is that conversation not being had? Why do you still in 2025 need a white man to come in and say, hey, you know, you black people, y'all need to stop fighting each other?
Even then, so, you know, for the white man to come in and say you guys need to stop fighting each other after causing everything that has made these individuals fight each other,
absolutely,
is so ass backwards. We are seeing neocolonialism take fold, as it always has, because we haven't properly contradicted it. We haven't properly addressed it. It's unfortunate to see these African leaders rely on Agent Orange, you know, President, you know, Trump, to rely on him as if he's some peaceful individual, when he just was the head of one of the most unsuccessful military operations against Iran in military history, that costed enough for us to end homelessness, end houselessness, cure many diseases, fund the curing of many diseases, and at the same time still have a little bit of money left over, and then some, to eliminate student debt, loan debt. So for individuals to see him as this beacon of peace, this beacon of hope, is a part of the imperial ideological agenda. It's to glorify imperialists and tyrants, and to make certain individuals believe that the only way that we see ourselves in a comfortable position, or even in a position to not worry, is through the lens of a white man helping out. That for me shows, one, that we have lost hope in that African leaders have lost hope in themselves, and the people there have lost hope in those leaders. And what we keep seeing are these proxy government systems keep being put into place. For those that don't know, you know, Rwanda, Kagame has been a fucking tyrant for over 40 years, going on 40 fucking years. He is connected to the Toronto Raptors, or was connected to the Toronto Raptors, in trying to use the NBA to like water down the fact that he was a tyrant. You know, like wild. There's an ESPN piece that literally is like ESPN advocating for a coup to take place in Rwanda, and you know, this is the nature that we consistently keep coming to. We keep coming to this like roundabout, the same corner of what is to be done, how can we fix it, you know, and reacting to things not being done, things not being fixed. You know, I think you raise a very perfect question, you know, is why aren't they working with said other African leaders to topple Western imperialism in their country? Well, a large part of that is that we have proxy government systems in place that make it physically impossible, unless resistance is equally met with that proxy system, for it to be toppled and overthrown. So the Congo and Rwanda going and asking Trump, you know, hey, save us, is neocolonialism 101. It's saying, hey, we will leverage off more of our land, more of our resources. We will underdevelop our own selves. We again, Walter Rodney's how Europe underdeveloped Africa will get you to understand what is going on. Is that we have these puppet government systems that are saying it's okay to extract our resources, to fuck over our ecosystems, to cause mass ecocide, and at the same time invoke menticide. It's all okay. Because guess what? We're going to get some monetary funding from, you know, Agent Orange that's going to fix, you know, me having a 2008 BMW instead of having a 2025 BMW. You know, that's what these proxy government systems worry about. They worry about glamour and money and holding on to the power that they have, that they know inflicts and oppresses their own people. The fact that Trump thinks that, or people think that Trump is going to get a Nobel Peace Prize, and that this is something that people who have Nobel Peace Prize need to be warranted. Okay, let me go down in history for you guys. Alfred Nobel, which was a Swedish fucking founder of dynamite, of TNT, created the Nobel Peace Prize because he created dynamite. So he needed a counterpart to the destruction that he just fucking introduced to all of society.
Yeah.
So it's ass backwards. It's so ass backwards, and I don't really know how else to describe it.
Well, that's the world we live in, man. The world.
Fusion, as the undisputed truth would call it. It's
yeah.
So this is wild, and I forgot that the video was capped at 11 minutes. My bad. It's wild, and Marco Rubio is a neo-colonial war hawk. His sole motivating force is to cause and to play war. This is an individual that fetishize, like has a fetish with turning battleship into like a real life thing, like a real life endeavor. He has plans to again invoke war and using the Monroe Doctrine to try and do it, and not just in Southern America, so-called, but also in Africa as well.
This devilish behavior, man.
Yeah, and they're not hiding their faces anymore, and I think that that's very clear. That they're being very distinct on what they're needing and what they're wanting, which is resources, which is what they've always wanted, is resources.
That's why we, especially us here in the belly of the beast, everywhere they need to push back and resist, especially us, because we're like right underneath these folks, man. We're in close proximity to them, and we can like really weaken empire if we play our part. Like the world is at this point is like really dependent on us, because it's difficult for someone across the ocean to be able to strike at the United States of America. Us that are here and that understand that America represents empire, that we live in an imperialist nation, and is an enemy to humanity, is an enemy to the environment, right? And it's the people. It's the people that are in positions of power. I don't want to. This isn't something abstract. Like when you say America, like it's this thing over there. It's people. It's actual people that have this ideology that they feel that they are superior, that they are in the right, even when they're wrong. They feel like there's the means justifies the ends. That is their type of thinking, and so it's the thinking that allowed them to be able to colonize all of the Americas. I mean, when you think about it, again, going back to what you see happening to the Palestinians with this illegal state called Israel, and what these Zionists are doing, and why it's so important that Palestine is free. And going back to the mayor, he has this stance, well, not the mayor, but the guy who's running for mayor, right? Mandani has this stance of Israel has a right to exist. And at the end of the day, I mean, Israel is, like they shouldn't even be there, to be quite honest, man. Like their whole existence, the way that they came into existence, was unjust. It was. I don't want to even. I will go so far to say it was illegal if you want to go by international law and so forth. But even if we don't get into legality, man, what they did was wrong. That was a land that was occupied by a people, and they've committed ethnic cleansing and genocide for that state to be able to exist. The reason I'm bringing them up in this context, going back to the United States, is because America is the same illegal entity, and it needs to be dismantled. Because when you think about this land, it started off. How did it start off? It started off with just Jamestown. Jamestown was probably smaller than Israel, and look at it now today. So those people who are of the Muslim faith that are in that vicinity, we can't act like the same thing won't happen to them if we allow Israel to continue to expand its borders. When will it stop? Because there's always going to be resistance to the type of oppression and repression that they're going to continue to practice against the people who are under that are not Zionists, that are not of the Jewish faith, that are that's going to continue to live underneath their government. And so as long as that's happening, which is going to, as long as they exist, is going to happen. There's going to continue to be resistance, and so that's going to justify in the eyes of Israel and the people who support them their expansionist policy, right? And before you know it, they'll be at the doorsteps of Iran and the doorsteps of China, India, Pakistan, and other nations, and so they have to be stopped. That was a lot said right there.
No, I think you again. It's kind of hard to like wrap specific words about what we're talking about because they've made it so complex with the destruction, the oppression, the famine, and how international this now is, how capitalism turned into imperialism. And how it aids each other, how they stay at the structures that they are.
Now, capitalism supports imperialism because they were imperialists when they left. It was the imperialist policies of the Europeans that had them go out and set up these colonies around the world. So capitalism has always, from its inception, aided and abetted these imperialists, man. They've been imperialists since the beginning.
Yeah,
but I get what you're saying, though. You know what I'm.
Yeah, no. I again, there's so many words and so many things that we could say regarding this. I was trying to find a quick little break for us to take because we had a 1-minute break and then we had a 4-minute break. So that really was like a 5-minute break that was split up.
I mean. Shit, we don't need no more breaks.
I need one so that I could, handle something real quick.
You need to wind down. I mean, it's been an hour and 30. You see how they doing me, my uprising. Got back and they trying to work me overtime right now, man.
We're gonna take a quick break. Until then, enjoy some words from Kathleen Cleaver. We will be right back, you guys.
About this whole question of violence that's been bandied around, very clear, should be made very clear that in the Black Panther Party and among all black people, it's not a question of violence, aggressive violence. This is what people mostly think of. It's a question of defending ourselves and our people against the violence that's being waged upon us and has been waged upon us for the past 400 years. A war of aggression is going on against black people, not only on the level of guns, but on the level of housing, on the level of education, on the level of food, on every level of the society. There's aggression, there's hostility, suppression, and violence directed against black people. The program of the Black Panther Party, originally started as the Black Panther Party for self-defense, is to move to defend and protect black people against this violence so that we can move to organize black people into a sufficient power to obtain our needs.
That way. What I would think it would be wise for minority leadership to do would be to seek out and to interpret and to press those points in which there is a common self-interest. Economics, political, housing, things of this sort. Now, I'd like to have her react to that.
All right. First of all, this was the policy of Dr. Martin Luther King. He asked these people to move in their own self-interest. They refused. And secondly, what you're asking is something that's human. And I don't think it's possible for this establishment to react to a human problem in a human way. It's impossible. In terms of self-interest.
You think it's that inhuman?
It is. It's obviously that inhuman to me if you look at its history and what it's doing now. If that is human, then we're something else. So I have to assume that they're non-human. In terms of self-interest, it's a question of whose self-interest. There are masses and masses and masses of white people who would agree with you on that point. But these white people do not have any power, they do not have any say, they do not have any control. And the self-interests of the people who are in charge are not those of human beings. They're mainly based on money and power. You see, if these people would move in their self-interest, they wouldn't beat their own children in Chicago and crack their heads. If they moved in their self-interest, they wouldn't send their armed police onto their own college campuses where their own children are studying. They wouldn't do that. So in terms of their own people, they don't move in their own self-interest. So we can be assured that in terms of black people, they will not move in their self-interest. What is important is for black people to move in black people's self-interest and let them do whatever they want to do.
In the most vicious system of racism.
But then the funds were taken away.
But they got them back.
Right, but they weren't in control, not really.
No, they're in control now, and they're in control in Alabama. I'm saying there's never going to be a time when you're totally in control.
Why not?
Life is a constant struggle.
I don't see why black people can't be totally in control of their destiny.
Oh, only if you struggle and fight for it.
Well, that's what it's all about.
But you got to fight with your head as well as with your fist or with your gun.
Well, maybe,
I think that all wars involve fighting on every level.
That's
you see,
right.
Politics is warfare without bloodshed, and warfare is politics with bloodshed.
Yeah.
Including white people.
I'm quoting Huey Newton and Mao Zedong and Ho Chi Minh.
Well, let's put it this way. If that's the case, then if we're
in
looking...
the English language.
If we're looking...
You gotta love Kathleen.
Quoting white people. You heard? Like that Mark, like, hey.
Let's get into this last story, which is oxycodone being discovered in U.S.-backed food aid intended for Gazans. And stop saying I actually want to backtrack. There is no such thing as a Gazan. There are Palestinians that are stuck in a region in a strip labeled the Gaza. Just like there are people that are Palestinian that are encroached in the areas known as the West Bank. So just making it very clear, there is no such thing as a Gazan. There is no such thing as a West Bankian. There are Palestinians, and they are subject to ethnic cleansing, genocide, and under the same imperialist constraints that all of us are under. Just they are being met with 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs. So at the same time are being fed opioids through flour, granulated flour, which is intended to make bread, is now making oxybread, oxycodone bread. So I'm going to go through this very quickly because me and Ikemba have a second engagements that we need to get to today. It says right here, the Gaza government media office on Friday condemned the discovery of oxycodone pills reportedly discovered in flour bags distributed by American Israeli aid centers. We have so far documented 4 testimonies from citizens who found these pills inside the flour bags. It is said in a statement warning that the, quote, possibility that some of these narcotic substances were deliberately ground or dissolved in the flour itself. Oxycodone is an opioid, which is meant for cancer, by the way, for cancer patients, long-term that deal with pain. The drug is highly addictive and can have life-threatening effects, including breathing and complications and hallucinations. The media office statement comes after several social media posts shared images of pills purportedly discovered in flour bags in Gaza. Palestinian pharmacist Omar Hamad described this discovery of the pills as, quote, the most despicable form of genocide. Kali Mazen Abu Nada, a Palestinian doctor in Gaza, also posted about the drug on Facebook, describing it as a means to obliterate our societal awareness, meaning that this is no longer bombs that they're using. This is no longer the psychological warfare that they have invoked, the mental warfare that they have invoked on these people. They're now going after their physical health. They're now making them potentially addicts to oxycodone through humanitarian aid. Let that sink in for you guys, the viewers. Through humanitarian aid. Crushed up oxycodone, meaning you don't know, at this point, every bag has to get thrown out because we don't know if it was crushed, dissolved, making it further harder for Palestinians to be able to survive. So another form of fucking warfare. Another form of said collective fucking punishment.
I'm sure it was some damn Zionists who did it.
And I love how you say that, nothing before we recorded, I think our comrade Ikemba made something very fucking clear. Excuse my French, but I've lost people. I've lost friends that I can only rely on photos of looking at now. They're like, the only thing that would surprise me is the annihilation of them now, of Zionists. Everything that they have done does not surprise me anymore, because they have, every time you think that they go low, they go low. In the words of Eric Mays, I go lower. That's them. Like that, like they go to the lowest extremities. And at the same time, it's the same perpetual thing, throwing rocks in a glass house and hiding your hand and pointing it at someone who has no hands, who can't throw something. So again, perpetual, yes, because they're allowed to do it via being a wing, an extension, a 3.0 update, like an iOS device. Funding after funding after funding to invoke what? Imperialism. To funnel what? Corporate capitalism. To help aid who? Technocratic oligarchs. This article ends by stating that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the controversial U.S.-Israeli aid organization operating aid points in Gaza, has been widely condemned by human rights organizations for its lack of transparency and accountability. On Wednesday, 15 human rights and legal groups called for the suspension of GHF for its role in undermining international humanitarian organizations and fostering the, quote, forced displacement of Palestinians, end quote, in Gaza, amounting to what could be complicity in crimes under international law, including war crimes, crimes against humanity, or genocide. Now, international law was brought up earlier, and I just want to say that the institutions that invoke international law were created by colonial powers. So they will only call it a violation if it happens to them. When they do it to other people, you got to go through this court, through this court, through this court, through this court, through this court. And then guess what? They're going to deny, defend, oppose. It's what they do, right? It's not deny, defend, oppose. Gaza's health authorities has reported that at least 516 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces near 8 sites in the past month of GHF's operations. On Friday, Haaretz reported which is an Israeli news outlet, Israeli soldiers admitting to directly shooting and killing unarmed Palestinians at GHF-operated aid collection sites. Middle East Eye has asked the GHS for comment. They did not give one. And so this was an updated article by MiddleEastEye.net, which you guys can go to. It's a very credible source. I have comrades that have done work with this particular news outlet, so I highly advise you guys to go and check them out. And this was updated about 2 hours ago, so we had more information compared to the information that was given to us on Monday. And when the story broke out, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturday is when it broke out, and there was very mild information regarding the situation. But now we know that there are multitudes of accounts of this happening, and this organization has been in cahoots with the misguided routes, the bombing of said humanitarian aid routes, the killing of Palestinians as they're seeking and going to these areas where known aid is supposed to be at. It's despicable at this point. So I'm gonna pass this over to you.
Yeah, as you was going through this, I was like, let me do a little research, man. So this foundation, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, was founded by a guy named Johnny Moore Jr. So Johnny Moore Jr., he's an American evangelical leader and businessman who founded the Kairos Company, a public relations firm. Moore is a commissioner for the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom and co-founder and president of Congress of Christian Leaders. This is the guy who founded this foundation. I want to scroll down to his foreign policy, right? It stands on foreign policy. Moore called the Obama foreign policy a failed experiment in American humility and advocated for greater American hegemony in the Trump administration, while warning it takes theater to win the White House these days, but it takes temperament to run it. He has called on European politicians to do more to combat terrorism. Moore wrote that one of the reasons why evangelicals supported Trump's move of the Jerusalem embassy was because they also cared about Palestinians. He repeatedly downplayed the idea that Christian theology is why evangelicals support Israel and that the real reason is more about geopolitics. Moore was among a contingent of evangelical leaders who met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, there could be more in here. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time digging through this.
I think that, I put out an article, regarding, the connections between political prisoners and all of that. And I've been trying to formulate what my next article might be. And I think you just gave me the tip. I think you just gave me a reason to write it.
Crazy, man.
Being that history and the connections and evangelical history and its connections to the demise and oppression of indigenous populations here in the occupied territories of Turtle Island. Yeah, I could get into that. But you pointing all of that out, this makes sense now, right? Like, this makes sense that they would put fucking Oxy. And
makes a lot of sense now.
Yes, exactly. Especially knowing what this organization has already been a part of and what they aim to be a part of moving forward, being that they want to continue Western white fucking hegemony, and those are their words, not mine. That's crazy. That is crazy. I think we can conclude there regarding the story. Just stay in the loop. Again, Middle East Eye is a very good source. We are a very good source here for making sure that individuals know what's going on. But yes, they're putting oxy in flour now in Gaza. That's where we're at this stage of warfare regarding us, the individuals that are oppressed by this imperialist system, and them being the imperialists that oppress us. We got, if we're not, coming together, making some new rules, formulating some new thoughts, really using contemporary thought processing regarding individuals that are here, that know and have given us a blueprint, and we don't even, don't even look at it half the time. I think now it's time for us to start really looking at it, and hopefully, the viewers, you guys liked this episode, you guys like this morning show with us. We appreciate you guys as always, and if we wish we could be here every single day, but due to us being victims of capitalism as well, being victims of imperialism, that is a little unfortunate currently right now.
I'm gonna make the donuts.
Yeah, and support us on Patreon at patreon.com / Black Power Media Reloaded. It's the best way to help us out. And also the super chats, the joining our YouTube, all of that helps, in the midst of getting us up and running. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Ikemba, for coming on. I know it's been a minute.
For sure, man. And like tomorrow too, for everybody, we in the centennial of Patrice Lumumba and Medgar Evers, and tomorrow is July 2nd. Is the actual born day of both Medgar Evers and Patrice Lumumba. So find a way to remember both of those revolutionary leaders, heroes, our ancestors, highlight them, uplift them in any way possible, because our people should know who they are and what they represented, what they did, for us. Yeah,
and we've had a lot of centennials this year so far.
Yeah, man.
is, you know, so very beautiful for us to remember these individuals that again are reached 100 years old, and we are still using and teaching and learning from these individuals. I think is very beautiful. That being said, though, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you to the Uprisers. Thank you to Ikemba. Shout out to all of our hosts here. Again, Kiana, Kalanji, Natasha, Buna, Fernando, Rakeem, everybody that's involved in making this what it is. You guys are some dope ass individuals, and I wouldn't, you know, want to do this with anybody else in any other group of people. So let's continue our work. Let's continue moving forward. But most importantly, you know, rise up, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Sometimes the riot is a quiet one, where the battle is to love yourself and function in society, where voices of reason are muted by anxiety, like gaining notoriety is selling your soul. So we tend to go no deeper than the shallow water level, trying to keep us overhead in the face of all the slurs and the stares, mentally frozen, paralyzed by fear of failure and success. So we lock, stock, barrel, running while it's crumbling. All these towers and they're babbling, but the baby's in the bath and the stash under the bed on my head, spinning from the circles and the puppets and the strings that they pull. Then we move. Reactionary warfare never produces winners on the field. Feeble and foolish, what tools and what weapons are we using? We need some new ones. Real revolution, it's real solutions. What we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution, where my inner me really a mirror for the galaxy. New time, brand new paradigms, new contracts to sign. They thought that this would all be televised, though it's happening right before our very eyes. It's on the inside, with their guns cocked. When that rock drops, standing on the rooftop, praying that the mountaintop can live inside the valley. People tell me the reward is somewhere off in heaven, like heaven's only in the sky, like chariots are swinging, like God is something separate from yourself, from your wealth, from your lover, from your neighbor. Oh, your savior is coming in your own name, coming with the face the same. Real revolution, it's real solutions, where we've taken on the ways of the ones who conquer with their guns and religion and division. Got my inner me looking like my enemy. Real revolution, where my enemy is really a mirror for the galaxy.